the 8 days of Hanukkah, corresponding to the 8 days of this festival that we are currently in. As you can see in the footage, there's the background has the sukkah in our background. So we are actually right now in the middle of this festival of Sukkot, and we are reading every day in the prayers about the bulls that have been offered in the temple time. And there are 8 days to this festival, the Torah says. Biblically, there are 8 days. There are actually 9 days outside of Israel, but biblically it's 8 days. And the Torah says that we offer every day of this holiday for the 7 days, bulls, beginning with 13, going down to 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, and 7 on the 7th day. And on the 8th day, 1 bull, corresponding to the one nation, the Jewish nation. And somehow that 8 days of bull, 8 days of offering the bulls, was used as an example to the 8 days of Hanukkah by Beit Shammai to celebrate the day, the holiday by kindling 8 candles or 8 lights, 8 lights of light, and then going down to 7, 6, 5 till the last day, 8th day would be 1. So there is a connection between the two. We haven't yet discussed the connection between the two, but we have discussed the idea of oil and the idea of 8. That the number 8 represents a transcendent level, a level that is above the norm. The norm is 7 because that's how many days of the week, and there's never a change in that. Doesn't matter what time of the day or what time of the month. 7 days represent Sunday through Shabbos. And then it starts again. Sunday is day 1 and Shabbos is day 7. And it doesn't care what day Rosh Hashanah is, what day Sukkot is, what day New Year's is. Just 7 days of the week are consistently 1 through 7. Can you pull the door closed, please, Edna? Sarah, thanks. So we have the idea of consistency with 7. Comes along number 8 and says there is something that transcends consistency. There's something that transcends the normal way of doing things. That is represented by 8. Incidentally, a bris is on the 8th day. 8, it means, because that is a covenant which transcends a logical connection, which is why you do the baby when the baby has absolutely no concept of what's going on, has no ability to say yes or no. It's not about saying yes or no, it's about being connected. And the connection, the real ultimate connection, is not about connecting through logic, but it's about connecting because it's right to connect. And so the parents do the ultimate favor for the boy. The girl is already connected, by the way, as the Talmud says. But the boy needs that extra connection. The boy's connection is made through the parents, because of the fact that the boy is too young to oppose it or to demonstrate against it or whatever it is. It's not about asking yes or no. If you say yes, well, then it makes sense. If you say no, it doesn't make sense to you. And that's not what it's about. The covenant, it's a bris. A covenant means it goes through thick, through thin, for better or for worse. That is the covenant. So it's the same thing with Hanukkah. It's 8 days. It's the same thing with Sukkot, but he hasn't yet brought it down to the Sukkot holiday yet. But the idea is that there are 8 days transcendent of logic. It's not about logic. And that fits into the whole idea of Hanukkah, because the point of Hanukkah was that the Greeks were trying to impress upon the Jewish people, they didn't want to destroy them, they didn't want to destroy the temple, they didn't ask for any of that. The war was not about destroying the Jews. The war was about Greek culture versus Jewish connection, godliness within the Torah. They were happy with the Torah. They didn't appreciate the godliness of the Torah. And not appreciating the godliness of the Torah means that if it makes human logic sense, good. If it doesn't, leave it alone. What do you mean you can't eat pig? That doesn't make any sense. It's an animal just like any other animal. Doing those type of laws, Shabbos, a day of rest, great. Fantastic, rest. It's good for you. But to keep kosher, what's that all about? Go to a body of water, and then come out and say I'm now purified because I went into this body of water. That doesn't make any logical sense. Don't kill, don't steal. Good. Give a bris to a kid. What are you doing? You're mutilation. Putting on black boxes and strapping them to your arms. Taking plants and waving them to four corners of the earth like we just did today with the lulav and the esrog. Who needs? What's that? What is that? Oh, you have a good reason? Let's hear the reason. Oh, nice. Good. You have no reason? What are you doing it for? It's might and mind over spirituality. And so 8 conveys that there is an idea of transcendent, of human logic. The connection of a Jew to God is not about the logic. It's about the connection to God, which is Simchas Torah, which is coming up now. We'll have Wednesday night here, we'll have Thursday night here, we'll have Friday day here, a big time party. We have the bar, it's all sitting up there, and that's just the brown stuff. And then there's the white stuff that's in the freezer. Everything is ready to burst out into song and to dance. We'll take the Torah, we'll jump around, we'll sing with it, we'll be enthusiastic about it. You can say to yourself, the Torah? I study Torah maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe never. Maybe I don't study it properly. Why do I have to be happy? Comes along Simchas Torah and says, you missed the point. We don't dance with the Torah when it's open. We dance with the Torah when it's closed. You can't read it. The words are absolutely rolled up and then covered with its cover. It's dressed. The Torah is not open to study. It's not about studying. It's about the connection that we have with the Torah. You study, okay, good. That will give you a stronger feeling of rejoicing. But the Torah is ours, whether we study with it or not. It's still a celebration of the Torah. We're just the feet of the Torah that day. So it's not about the logic of the Torah. The Simchas Torah is not about, I concluded the entire Torah, now I can dance. No! I've got the Torah, that's why I dance. I have the Torah. Torah was given to the Jewish people. It's a light unto the nations. But we are the stalwarts of it. We're supposed to take care of it. And when it's closed, that's when we dance with it. Because it's not about logic, and it's not about, yes, of course it's about logic. You should understand as much as you can. That's what Judaism is all about, getting it down into you. But the foundation and the base of the Torah is because God gave it to us. We are only a nation, as Rabbi Sadia Gaon from the early 8th, maybe even 7th century writes. He says, we are not a nation because of our language. We don't necessarily speak the same language. You speak Yiddish, I speak Ladino. You speak Ivrit, I speak English. You speak French, I speak Spanish. We have different languages, and we might not ever be able to communicate with one another as a Jew. We're not, as much as it's good, we are not a nation because of our bagel. Somebody was here on Wednesday night and had just come back from Israel. We had our big Sukkot evening. And I said, what struck you about Israel? And he said, one of the things that struck him was you can't get a normal bagel in Israel. I said, you know what, there can't be a Jewish land. They have these like sesame oblong baked type of bread that's not bagel. In Israel you can't get a proper bagel. And nobody would probably appreciate it. Only Americans would appreciate it. And they're trying to be more Israeli than the Israelis anyway. Or you can't get good sushi. You ain't getting to get that in Israel either. They just there are certain foods that they have somewhere, and there are certain foods that they have in other places. So we're not a nation without food. We're not a nation without culture, because in one place they can be waltzing Matilda, and in another place they can be God Save the Queen, and in another place they could be talking about taking me out to the ball game. It's not, and then in Israel they're saying whatever they're saying there. It's not about that. We are not a nation because of our language. We're not a nation even because of our homeland. We've had more years of Judaism without Israel. We've had more years of without Ivrit and without any language or food or anything to connect us. What unites the Jewish people throughout the history, throughout the ages, throughout all thick and thin, is the fact that we have a mission. We have a Torah. And we pray to God based on those words from the Torah, and we follow the Torah. That gives us a kinship with any Jew around the world. But wait a minute, but that Jew doesn't study Torah. I know, but it's not about that. It's about what unites every Jew. And it's not the food, and not the language, not the culture. It is the Torah. That unites every Jew, even if you haven't never studied it. But that brings the unification. So that's what the Greeks had a problem with. The problem that the Greeks had was not the beauty and logic and philosophy of Judaism. That they appreciated. They appreciated the falafel and the bagels and all the other, Jewish foods. They were okay with latkes, and they were okay with donuts, and they were okay with kreplach and knedlach and gribenes and whatever else we had. They had no problem with that. The Greeks had a problem with this illogical or superlogical or transcendent of logic that the Jewish people have through the Torah. That was what was bothering them, and that's what we're going to see over there. That's number 8. Number 8 says, yes, you live in a normal world, and you have to behave in a normal way, but not that normal. You can be a little meshuggah as well. A little abnormal, a little unusual. That's what we are. We are that way. Which is why, by the way, just incidentally, at 12:30 today, we've invited the entire street, Calvington Way, for a barbecue hot dog lunch in the sukkah. We built this big behemoth of a shack or a booth outside of our house. We want them to know what we're doing here, and we want to make it fun while we're at it. Our job is not to make them sit or dwell in a sukkah. Our job is to make them realize that we do things because God says so. This is the Bible. This is what we do. We still do it, and this is why we do it. And then they go, oh, wow, it's beautiful. Then they hear the reason behind it, and they understand, they appreciate, and they respect what we're doing. But it looks meshuggah. What are you doing? It's like a sore thumb sticking out in the middle of a strip of Peachtree City. I mean, what are you doing here? It looks meshuggah. And that's why we do things, because God says sometimes things look meshuggah. I want it to be attractive to the rest of the world. I want them to see this. And I want them to know what you're doing. I was once walking in the street many years ago, on my way to shul on the first day or the second day of the holiday, and I was walking with my big lulav, and this big palm branch in my hand, and my other hand I had this box, and a couple stopped me. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. They were taking a walk, a stroll, and they said, please forgive us, but you're about the 20th person we've seen carrying this. What are you doing? Like, what in the world are you doing? So I said, are you Jewish? They said, no. So I said, are you familiar with the Bible in Leviticus chapter 23? They said, please refresh our memory. So I said, it says over there you should take these 4 kinds, and this is how you rejoice before God. These 4 kinds represent 4 different types of people. The citron is a fruit, and it has a pleasant aroma. That's a person who is accomplished in study and accomplished in good deeds. Study is when you eat something. It's like you eat it, your brain eats it. But when you do good deeds, it's a good fragrance, a pleasant fragrance around the person. So that fruit, I showed them the fruit, that fruit represents a person fully accomplished. The palm comes from a date tree. That's good food. That's a good taste. That's good studying, but no fragrance. The deeds are not up to par. And the myrtle, that has good fragrance, but it doesn't have it's a bitter taste. That's good deeds, but not studying. And the willow, the poor willow has nothing. It has no deeds, and it has no accomplishments on studying either. And that is what this holiday is all about, unifying all different 4 types of people. And then you can rejoice before God. You know what they said? They said that was one of the most beautiful teachings or whatever, messages we've ever heard. That's all. Like when we look with sugar, walking around with these big branches in your hand. What are you walking with branches for? But when you explain yourself, and you tell them, you're not asking them to do it. You're explaining why you do it, why the Torah wants us to do this. They are blown away by these messages. They're very powerful, important messages. I said, unity is the most beautiful thing there can be and the most joyous thing. When everybody is unified, everybody seems to be happy. That's why Simchas Torah is so happy. We don't open the book, it's closed. Everybody is equal. Whether you studied or not, you're all in this together. All right, sometimes we need a little boost. The brown stuff can help out. Sometimes a little wine or a little white or a little brown, or sometimes people need a little boost to get a little loose. But generally speaking, the reason why we're doing it is not to drink. It's in order to lose some inhibitions and to become more free, uplifted, transcendent. Number 8. That's what it's all about. Our mission is to be number 8. Yeah, we look Meshuggah. It's above logic, but we could explain things. We could help the world see that when God told us to do something, we are doing it, despite the fact that it looks crazy. But I explain it. Here it is. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And you'll be shocked how many people, non-Jews, who have no connection to religion or anything, are very inspired by these things. These are very powerful, potent messages that we do. Then they say, "Oh, Judaism is not just one of these faraway locked down places. We're supposed to be a light to the nations. It is a light. These are the things that we do. All right, you know what? Some things we do are a little crazy, like eating that chicken fat on Passover and stuff. All right, all right. Page 37. We already started this, but we're going to go through quickly the first part of it. The explanation of the matter is, as it pertains to the service of man, can be understood by introducing the ideas explained in the discourse of my father-in-law, the Rebbe. The Greeks defiled the sanctuary oils because their entire war was a spiritual one. They did not wish to harm the bodies of Israel. This is not Purim, where Haman came along and said, all right, we're going to do away with all Jews. That was not what it's all about. Their primary desire was to cause them, Israel, to forget your Torah and take them away from the statutes of your will, which is the words that we say in the prayers of Hanukkah and in the benching, the grace at the meals of Hanukkah. We say they wanted us to forget your Torah. It doesn't say they wanted us to destroy us. They wanted us to forget your Torah and your commandments and your mitzvahs. That's what they say. Let's see, your Torah. Even within the battle against Torah and mitzvot, their primary battle was against the spirituality and divinity of Torah and mitzvot. Number 55, note 55. Note also what is related in the midrashim of our sages. The midrash section of our sages is where they tell these stories. It's cited in footnote 19. It's the Talmud says. The Greeks said, write for yourselves on the horn of an ox that you have no portion in the God of Israel. This is footnote 55. Implying that the decree was against divinity. The God of Israel was their problem, not Israel. This is not contradicted by what Rambam writes in Hilchot Hanukkah, beginning of Hilchot Hanukkah, beginning of the laws of Hanukkah, and they nullified their religion and did not allow them to engage in Torah and mitzvot. The Rambam says, the Rambam who codifies as law the laws of Hanukkah, he writes that they were fighting against, trying to prevent the Jewish people from studying Torah and performing the mitzvot. That's what he writes. Now, that doesn't seem like this was a spiritual war. What's wrong if I did a mitzvah, if it makes sense? No, that's nice. What's the problem? He says it doesn't. And of the mitzvot, they are known to have prohibited. What are the mitzvot that these Greeks prohibited? Circumcision, sanctifying the new month, and Shabbat. Those were the ones that they were very dead set against, implying that the decree was against the fulfillment of Torah and mitzvot. For it can be said that the beginning and primary aspect of the battle was to cause them to forget your Torah, you God, and to take them away from the statutes of your will, i.e. the divine aspect of Torah and mitzvot, without prohibiting the actual performance of Torah and mitzvot. In other words, their goal was to take and to remove away the divinity, the godliness of these commandments. So they first came along and said, stop doing circumcision because that's too godly. If you can prove me how circumcision is important for your body, then we can talk. But when they had dominion over Israel, in the midst of about 200 years into the Second Temple, what they attempted to do was to take the divinity away from the mitzvahs. So they said the mitzvahs that are specifically connected to God, like Shabbos. It's a day of rest, but the day of rest evolves around godliness. That's why we don't do certain things. We create an island in time where all the negatives of what we shouldn't do on Shabbos actually chisel out the things that we should do. All the negatives on Shabbos prevent us from losing focus on the three most important things in our life, which is God, family, and community. What else is more important? And the Yankees, all right, The three most important things in life is your God, is your family, and is your friends, your community. And so Shabbos, God says, stay away from everything else. Take a day of rest. You spend more time in the synagogue with God. You spend more time at home, and the meals are more elaborate. That's with your family. And you have time to walk. Don't be running in your car. You go up and down. There's your community. There's your neighbors. There's your friends. This is what we do. Or we invite them over. And so all the negatives, all the no's, are really to create a positive environment. And when you do the Shabbos properly, you can't imagine living without it. It's unbelievable. It's not about not working. Believe me, as a rabbi, my busiest day. It's my most difficult day, if you will. Not difficult in a difficult way, but it's a lot of work. But it doesn't say don't work. It's the creative work that one shouldn't be doing. Like I told the kids, I've mentioned this a few times. I've told the kids in school when they ask me about all the shopping. You can't go shopping. You can't go in the car. You can't go on the computer. You can't go on the phone. You can't go this. You can't watch the movies. You can't go. You can't. Everything is you can't. So I said, have you ever been swimming? I said, sure. I said, that's ridiculous. Swimming is such a terrible thing. You can't go shopping. You can't go in the car. You can't go on the internet. You can't go on your phone. You can't do anything. All you can do is swim around in the water. What kind of waste of time is that? It's a silly thing. They said, well, if you did any of those things, you wouldn't be able to swim and have fun. I said, that's exactly what Shabbos is. Instead of looking at the negative side of what you can't do, look at what it is, what you are doing. Look at the accomplishment of it. And the reason why the negatives are there are specifically because He wants you to have these three things in the fullest extent. So stop making food, stop cooking, stop driving, stop running around, turn off your world, tune out, stay in with your family, tune in to your friends, tune in to your God. That's a connection to God. Greeks didn't like that stuff. The Greeks didn't like the new moon. What do you mean the new moon? Whenever the month is, decide when it is. What are you talking about? Because God said the whole thing was not good for their against God concept. So they started off with those three things, and then he continues in the footnote 55, and from this evolved later the decrees upon the actual fulfillment of Torah and Mitzvot. Indeed, this is the order of the Rambam's description. They nullified their religion, which is the divine aspect, and later did not allow them to engage in Torah and Mitzvot. And alternatively, it can be said that as far as the actual chronology of events, the decrees went from benign to severe. First, they decreed against the actual fulfillment of Torah and Mitzvot, and later they instituted a more severe decree against the religion itself. And it can be argued that Rambam writes nullify the religion first because that was their primary objective, to get rid of the religion. Bottom line is, with all of this discussion, that what the Greeks were after was not to destroy Judaism, was not even to destroy the culture of Judaism. They didn't mind that temple. The temple was good. They didn't destroy the temple. They didn't like the oil in the temple. They didn't like the Shabbos. They didn't like the godly matters that was in Judaism. For them, that was opposed to what Greek culture was all about. And for that, they went even to war. The decree was first, leave godliness out of this, and eventually it became Judaism became, Israeli dancing and falafel. And speaking Ivrit and saying shalom. That's Judaism, which is, a lot of people would argue today. If you look at different publications coming from different places, they'll highlight the different things that are in Judaism. How Tikkun Olam and Israel this and Ivrit that. Those are all phenomenal, beautiful things that extend out of Judaism. No question about it. But that's not Judaism. That's nothing to do with Judaism. The whole world can be Tikkun Olam. What are you saying? The rest of the world doesn't look to fix the world? We're the only ones who know about being a mensch? It's not about that. It's about being connected to God. Without that, we don't have a religion. As I said before from Rabbi Sadia, without the Torah, we don't have a religion. We just have a culture that if some people like and some people don't like, there's no future. The children are not going to be swept up because Israeli dancing. I don't like Israeli dancing and I don't like falafel either. Oh, and by the way, Tikkun Olam doesn't do it for me either. So, sorry. But that's not what Judaism is. That's not the real Judaism. Real Judaism is spirituality and its connection and it's connecting to communities and connecting to each other. And your food is therefore different and your life is therefore different. Your week is different. Everything goes differently. And yeah, in your sukkah, it sticks out. Good. Okay. Okay. Back to the text on page 36, final paragraph. Hence, to cause them to forget your Torah specifically. These are words that we say in the prayers, and we say to God. They wanted us to forget your Torah. The emphasis in God. Even the Greeks would not have been so bothered if the Jews would study Torah. It wasn't Torah that was bothering them. But they wanted Torah to be studied only for its intellectuality. They wanted the philosophy of the Torah. They enjoyed the Talmudic debates. And they enjoyed the fact that God says don't cheat and don't steal and don't harm other people. They enjoyed the intellectualism of the Torah. And there's plenty of intellectuality in the Torah. Unbelievable intellectuality in the Torah when you get into it. They loved that part. The Greeks enjoyed that a lot. For it is your wisdom and understanding in the eyes of the nation, the Torah says. That the Torah itself, in the book of Deuteronomy, says, Ki chochmaschem ubinaschem le'enei ha'amim. It is your wisdom and your understanding to the eyes of the nation. The nations look up to us because we are the people of the book. And they know that the book has wisdom and the book has understanding, and this book of the Torah talks to them as well. It makes logical sense. They love studying the Torah as an intellectual book. And they study it all the time. The Christians study Bible more than we do. And they're into it. And they can quote you verse and chapter and verse. But that's all intellectual. Their primary battle, page 38, was that they sought to make them forget your Torah. The Greeks wanted the Jews to forget God's Torah. To make Israel forget, God forbid, that the Torah is the Torah of God. To reduce it to a mere intellectual exercise and nothing more. Academic subject. It's a good philosophy, a good intellectual, but it had nothing to do with the one who actually gave the Torah. The one who gave us the Torah, and those sections in the Torah that seem to be really weird. Oh, just not that. So, when it came to Torah, their fight, their war, the Greek might was not to eradicate the Torah from the Jewish people, was not to eradicate the Jewish people either. It was simply to eradicate the godliness, the spirituality of the Torah. Continue. The statutes. Similarly, with regard to mitzvot, the war of the Greeks was against the divinity of the mitzvot, against the fact that mitzvot are the divine will. When it comes to a mitzvah, God says, this is what I want you to do. So you can ask, well, but why? And that's a very, very legitimate question. Why should we? What's the purpose? What's the point? What happens? What doesn't happen? Why does he say this? What's implied here? What's in it for me? All those things are good, legitimate questions. But ultimately, because he wants us to do it, that's why we do it. So, if you came home and your wife said, "Can you please wipe the counter?" And you say, "Honey, the counter seems clean, but I'll take out the garbage." And she'll say, "Thank you very much, go take out the garbage. When you come back, please wipe the counter." And you say, "But the counter seems clean, I'll set the table." I say, "Great, take out the garbage, set the table, and then wipe the counter." "But the counter looks clean, I'll help you cook." "That's wonderful. Take out the garbage and clean, and but wipe that counter." "But why?" It's a good question. "Because I want it clean." Hey, for whatever reason, I'm OCD today.
Oh, she said so.
Or I put it, whatever it is. I put a dirty icon that yesterday somebody put their hand on. I don't know whatever reason. What difference does it make? I want you to do it. So you can do all the wonderful things in life, and you can expect your wife to say, "Oh, thank you so much for taking out the garbage." That's what the man thinks. Like, what do you mean? I took out the garbage. What more can I do for this woman? She just wants you to wipe down the counter. She did not ask you about the garbage. She didn't ask you about the cooking. She didn't ask you about setting the table. She asked you for one silly, small thing. Do it. You want to know why? Ask why later. Right now, you know what's good for you. Do what she wants. That's how it is. So God says, I want you to take 4 types of plants. And this is a palm frond with some willows and some myrtles and this. I want you to wave it the 6th direction. Huh? What? Hey, hold on a second. What am I doing now exactly? I'm going outside. I'm going to cut down some trees and I'm going to start waving them around. Now that's what God wants me to do. Can you please tell me why? Sure, I can tell you why. But right now, do it. It's about doing it. It's about observing it. It's about the action. It's about, I want you to do it. If your spouse wants you to do it, then do it. If you want shalom bayis, peace in the house, the first thing you do is you don't resist. You do it. Because if you do resist, it's shalom bayis. Bye-bye. Successful marriages and relationships are based on each other doing things for the other one that they want. Yes, this spontaneity and the extra stuff. We buy the gift, or we surprise them with this, and we take them on that vacation or this vacation, or we make their favorite meal. Whatever it is, those are good things. But it's about the consistency doing what the other one wants you to do. That is the most important facet of any relationship. Whether it makes sense to you or not, whether it's logical or not, there is nothing that is more important in any relationship than doing what the other one wants you to do. And especially when you don't understand it. Because that shows your devotion and dedication even more. And it's the same thing with God. God could have told us, I want you to chop wood for 10 minutes every day. And you'll benefit from the wood as well. You know what? You'll get the wood. Anyway, so the weather outside.
That's pulling your leg.
That's pulling my leg? What are you talking about? What?
Please, your wife, do what she says.
She came out just in the right time.
I take it out.
You'll explain later.
That's right.
So God could have said, why don't you chop wood every day for 10 minutes? And not only that, but the wood that you chop, you'll be able to use for your fire, for your oven, for this. So he doesn't ask us to do that. He could have, that would have been just as legitimate as anything. But he didn't ask us for that. He didn't ask us for that. He asked us to do these things. Now, some of them don't make sense. Some of them defy logic. And the ultimate one is the red heifer. The red heifer, when you prepare a dead cow, you burn it in its complete entirety with some wood and some whatever, it's dead. And those ashes, are, together with water, are sprinkled on a person who became unclean through touching a dead body. And those ashes are what makes the person become, resume his ability to walk, to become pure, ritually pure, to go walk, be able to walk into the temple. The ashes of a dead animal can cleanse a person ritually and make them not be any under the influence of dead bodies. It doesn't make any sense.
Sorry.
Even more so, that those who prepare the ashes become defiled. The priests that are connected to preparation of these ashes, they want to burn the cow, they want to do this, all those become defiled, they become unclean. Because they were connected, they were associated with the ashes. The dead body is not a problem, it's this dead body. Dead cows are not are kosher animals, so they won't give off an unclean. But this one does. That defies, doesn't make any sense. That's the most remote and illogical commandment that there is. The red heifer. But the point, so if you will, there are three types of commandments. There are three types of things that God wishes that we do. One type is regular civil law. Don't cheat, be honest, don't lie, don't steal, don't murder, don't hurt someone. All of these that are basic civil laws that any country would enact. The other type of laws are laws that were given reasons for them. For the lulav, there's a reason for it. So once you get the reason, all right, then that makes sense. Shabbos, there's reason. Then there's rules that we're never given with a reason. Keep kosher. So you can tell me from today to tomorrow that the cow's meat is better for you. It might be so. That the pig's meat carries within it tendencies of pig, so you shouldn't eat it. May be so, but the Torah doesn't say that. The Torah says this way you are holy, and this is what I want you to do. I'm holy, I want you to be holy. When you eat cow, you're holy. When you eat pig, it's unholy. Don't eat it. But why? It's not up for discussion. It's wipe the counter. That's what it is. Wipe it. But why? It doesn't matter why. Do it. That's the benefit. I know because I created you, I created the pig, I created the cow. What's good for you is this, not that. But what? It's good questions. They're all legitimate questions. And there's answers for them, by the way, somewhere. But I'm not giving you this reason in the Torah, so some reasons are there, some reasons are not. Finished. That's that third category. Statutes. The ones that don't have any reason for them are frustrating sometimes. Because it's like, why and what and what's the point, what's the purpose? Because I want. It's like in the Good Shabbos email of Rosh Hashanah. I told them the story of this professor of NASA, Professor Velva Green. I knew him very, very well. And his son is a classmate of mine, we're good friends. And his granddaughter is very, very close with my daughter. And in fact, she's the one who eventually introduced my daughter to her family, one of them being her first cousin, who married my daughter a month ago. So Velva Green, that professor, his granddaughter, very good friends with my daughter. Anyway, he was starting. He was just getting into Judaism, just slightly in the early 60s. He was taking a flight. My uncle, Rabbi Feller, who was the head Chabad in Minnesota, called him. He was the one who was friendly with him and said, Velva, order a kosher meal on the plane. You can order it. It doesn't make any difference. But he says, why do I have to worry about kosher? I don't keep kosher in my house. He says, yeah, but if people see that you're keeping kosher on the plane, it might do something. And he gets on the plane, he orders the meal. When he gets to the meal, they bring him a regular meal. He says, excuse me, I ordered a kosher meal. Anyway, make a long story short, they didn't have the kosher meal on the plane. Everyone is eating whatever it was, the chicken parmesan or the steak. and they were all enjoying their supper, and he went hungry. He was but when they offered him the meal, he said, "Give me the kosher meal," and everybody looked around. Oh, very impressive. Green wants a kosher meal. What's your name? Professor Velvel Green from NASA. Then he was going to say, all right, just give me a regular meal. I don't care. But then he realized, wait a minute, I just made a declaration that I want a kosher meal. I'm going to look ridiculous. So he gets off the plane, and it's late at night. There's only one store open. It's one stall. That's the hot dog stall in O'Hare Airport. That's the only thing left. And those hot dogs are turning on the grill, and they look plump, and they look juicy, and they smell divine. And he is angry. He's angry at the airline. He's angry at God. You know, I'm on the plane. I'm doing this for you, God. Can you not provide for me a kosher meal? I'm starving. But he's really angry. He's seething angry at fella, at the rabbi. It's now midnight, and he gets to the airport, and he's about to buy the hot dog. But first, I'm gonna teach that rabbi. He calls him collect from the payphone in the airport at midnight. The rabbi answers the phone. What's going on, Peru? Are you okay? He says, fella, they didn't have the meal on the plane, and I am starving, and I'm angry. And before I went to buy that hot dog, I was going to call you and let you know. I'm going to have that hot dog. They have hot sauerkraut on the side, mustard, relish, and onions. And every bite, I'm going to say your name. I'm eating it in your honor. So my uncle was really thrown off for a second, and he says to him, he says, listen, Velvel, you've often asked me what is the basis of the whole Torah. I'm telling you, the basis of the whole Torah is not to eat that hot dog now. He says, are you crazy? You're out of your mind. That's the basis of the whole Torah? You fella, I always thought you were nuts. Now I know you're nuts. I'm on my way to the hot dog. Goodbye. And he hangs up the phone, and he gets online, and he gets to the store, and he's about to ask, I want one of those hot dogs, and he can't seem to get the words out. It suddenly dawned on him what fella was saying. It's when you're connected to God, it's when you're hungry. It's not when you're not hungry and therefore you'll eat the kosher food. It's when it's challenging. It's when it's raining in the sukkah. As I was saying yesterday to those who were here. I don't mind smelling the esrog, but this is bad. You need a diaper change, kiddo. So in Judaism, when it doesn't make sense, and when you really want something, and not to do it because God said so, that's a relationship. That's the relationship. When it's pleasant, I was telling the story yesterday that it was Passover. The night before Passover was a Friday night. It's very rare that happens. It can happen, but it's on rare occasions that does not happen. That means by Friday afternoon you're finished with your Passover, although Passover doesn't start until the next night. But you have a problem because your chametz, you can't eat that leaven after a certain time and the next day, and you can't destroy it because you can't burn the fire on Shabbos. So you have to leave some over here. It's inconvenient. Unless you have a big hall in the shul where you can eat with whatever you want, and at the end of the night you just lock the door and it's sold in the sale of the chametz, so you don't have to worry about it. Which is exactly what we did. We had about 300 people eating in that meal. This was springtime, nice in April, and we were taking our time. We worked very hard before Pesach. It's crazy. And finally we were able to sit down at a meal for a couple hours on a Friday night. It was wonderful. And we delayed our time. When we walked home, about halfway home, the heavens opened up. I'm talking not just thunder and lightning and buckets of rain. I'm talking hail. And one of my young kids, I might have been raising, had learned in school that week that hail was one of the plagues of the evil Egyptians, the seventh plague. She said, what are we doing wrong? Why are we getting plagued? I mean, that was an innocent question. It was coming down. And one woman who was not yet observant of Shabbos had been at the shul that night, and she was like shocked by the ferocity of the storm. And so she came driving around the neighborhood looking for, knowing that we were going to be still walking home. I'm telling you, within, I would say 30 seconds, we were soaked all the way through, to the bone. my undershirt remained wet for 2 straight days. I hung it up, and it was soaking wet, soaking. And she lowers her window and she comes past us, and we were just walking. At that point, it doesn't matter how wet you are, it doesn't matter how much more rain, it just soaked. And she was crying from what she had. She said, I'll drive it, just get in the car. And I said, it's Shabbos. So she says, please, just a kid, a 2-year-old, you can't let it, it's dangerous, is it? So I walked over to the window and I said, listen, when it's pleasant outside, everybody is walking. That's no big deal to walk on Shabbos when it's nice outside. The big deal is what the commitment is when it's like this, and it's inconvenient, and your clothing are getting ruined, and your demeanor is, and you're sloshing. We were just like coming out of a shower. Everybody was just soaked. When you're doing that for God, that's the commitment. I'll never give this up. That I don't give. We don't give that part up. Maybe I might drive in a car. No, God forbid, I wouldn't do that. It's no big deal to walk when it's nice outside. When it's nice weather, when it's cool, when it's not too hot, not too cold. That's great. It's the problem is when it's not convenient. When the hot dog, when you really want that hot dog because you're starving. And then you say, but I'm not going to do it just because I'm my commitment to God. That's commitment. That's a relationship. That's a real relationship. And from that we learn about relationships with spouses, relationships with our children to us to our parents. Relationships are about doing things for other people, not only when they make sense. You buy a birthday cake because it's a birthday. That makes sense. It's logical. But especially when it doesn't. When it's not logical. When you're hungry. And Green, that was the last time he ever thought about a non-kosher hot dog. From that time on, he took him a time, but non-kosher he wouldn't eat anymore. He realized that is what Judaism is about. It's about that commitment. And the Greeks couldn't tolerate it. Why is it about God? What is it about this godliness that you have in your head? Leave God. It's beautiful without God. It's tikkun olam. It's Israeli dancing. The music is great. The falafel tastes good, and the Ivrit is very hip. Especially when you go eh. Israelis like to talk along. Comes along Judaism and says, listen, but Judaism it's good. It has all those good things. It's beautiful. That's not what Judaism is. Ultimately, Judaism is about doing it because the other one said, please do it. It's not just about hugging them when they smell good.
That is true. Come to me.
Alright, so let's see over here. Similarly, with regard to mitzvot, back to the statutes. Oh, wow, sorry. Similarly, with regard to the mitzvot, the war of the Greeks was against the divinity of the mitzvot, against the fact that mitzvot are the divine will. Hence, to take them away from the statutes of your will, and specifically statutes, and specifically your will, which contains 2 interpretations. Here's one. Even the Greeks agreed to the testimonial and judicial mitzvot, which, as I said before, judicial ones are the regular, don't kill, don't steal, and the testimonials are keep Shabbos, keep the festivals, put on tefillin. Those are testimonials, since they are rational mitzvot. Their entire battle was against the statute-type mitzvot, since they are fulfilled only because they are divine will. And the second interpretation is to take away from all mitzvot, just leave the godliness aspect out of it, which we will discuss next week as an introduction to the following chapter, this is important to go through that. So, bottom line is that the Greek war against the Jews was about removing God from Torah, removing God from mitzvot, removing God from Judaism. Removing God from Judaism makes Judaism Sometimes some like it and some don't, but there's no commitment and there's no, therefore, relationship. People ask about prayer all the time. You pray every day. It's too long to pray, and you have to pray in Hebrew, and every day. But praying is your time of a relationship. That's when you talk, and you. It's a discussion. All right, it's a one-way discussion a lot of times. God answers in different ways, but that's what it is. That is that time of the day that you're sitting with your significant other and you're having a discussion, you're having a talk. That's prayer. The word prayer means to, in Hebrew, tefillah means to connect. It's the connection time. It's the time where you solidify your relationship by discussing what the relationship is. Have a good Yom Tov, guys.